If you had to pick one governor out of 50 to be a fierce opponent and defiant against Donald Trump, who would you pick? This is like Jeopardy. Write it down. Gavin Newsom. He's had enough. He filed his suits to stop the federalization of the National Guard in California and making decisions now about whether to take that up to the United States Supreme Court. And after he got defamed with reckless disregard for the truth or actual knowledge that what Fox News was saying was false on Jesse Waters about a conversation between Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom that took place 3 days earlier than Fox News reported it and had an entirely different implication. Now there's a $787 million lawsuit filed by Gavin Newsom in Delaware against Fox. Why $787 million? That doesn't sound like a random number, Popok. It isn't. And we break it down for you on Legal AF, the podcast, me and Ben Meiselas. Let's go.
This Gavin Newsom lawsuit, Popok, I had the ability to interview California Governor Gavin Newsom about this $787 million defamation case against Trump. Here's what he said to me, and then let's get your take on this lawsuit. Let's play it.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I think you summed it up beautifully. I mean, they knowingly misrepresented the facts. They altered and edited statements of the President of the United States, videos, and they knowingly stated that I lied about a phone call with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, as we know, lied about a phone call he had with me the day before. That call, in fact, was almost 4 days prior. Trump himself went to John Roberts of Fox to show a screenshot of the call. That call was never in question. They went on then to alter the fact that the president said it was a call the day before. And then it was weaponized further on the Jesse Waters show, who had a chyron saying Gavin lied about President Trump. And so, look, I can take it. These guys go after me 24/7. I'm a piñata and have been for years and years at Fox. Never once did I think I had to file a defamation lawsuit. But this crossed the line, the journalistic and ethical lines, the boundaries of defamation, malice, and they need to be held to account because it's one thing to cover up for lies of a president, but the impact of covering up for these lies is impacting our democracy, truth, and trust.
Michael Popok, what do you make of this lawsuit? Break it down also maybe in a little more detail. What's being alleged here? What do you think is going to happen? It's filed in Delaware.
Yeah. So Governor Newsom, I love many aspects of the filing. First, the number, 787 million, not picked out of a hat. It's the exact number, of course, Governor Newsom knows it, of the settlement between the Dominion Voting Systems and Fox, coming out of Delaware a couple of years ago, that led to the downfall of Tucker Carlson. Lou Dobbs was sued, Marina Bartiromo, Fox News, Fox Corp, Rupert Murdoch. They were all sued because of the lies that were spread as the propaganda machine of Fox for the Trump administration about the fact that Donald Trump, the lies that were spread about Dominion Voting Systems, that they are hardware in the election process, and a couple of precincts were being used by a global conspiracy involving an Argentinian business person. This was all spread by Sidney Powell. Flipped votes from Trump to Biden. All a lie. They ran with it, even knowing, and we learned about the internal emails at the time. They all came spilling out because Delaware's summary judgment process required these documents to be filed, including deposition transcripts of people like Rupert Murdoch. And that led to the $787 million defamation settlement. There's still another case, by the way, involving Smartmatic, a software company, almost exactly the same, up in New York. So that's where they got the number from. Why Delaware? Because Fox is like many of our corporations in America, is a Delaware corporation because it's a business court and has been a very friendly environment, or at least one that you can rely on, with very reliable body of law in the corporate world and judges that sort of know what they're doing in the Chancery Court division. And so that's why you sue in Delaware. And as Governor Newsom, as that clip touched on, there was a phone call many days before Donald Trump federalized the National Guard. When Donald Trump told the story, he collapsed the timeline and made it look like there was a phone call just before the federalization, almost as if Gavin was in Newsom was in agreement that that he had lost control of the state and the cities like Los Angeles and needed the National Guard. You got to do better. It's out of control. It was almost like he was implying Trump that Newsom was in on it. When the phone call was on the 6th, several days earlier, then on Jesse Waters, they sliced and diced it and collapsed it and got rid of the things that were sticky like facts about the timeline and made it look like, to support Donald Trump, that the phone call had happened just before the federalization, and almost as if Governor Newsom was complicit in it, when that phone call came a lot earlier and it had nothing to do with that particular issue. So that is defamation. Now, as a public figure, there's a higher standard even for the news media, a propaganda machine as they are, through Fox. They've got to, he's got to prove actual malice, which means, under a line of cases you and I refer to as New York Times versus Sullivan, that they either knew what they were doing was false, sort of like the Dominion voting systems case, or recklessly disregarded the truth or falsity of what they were putting on the air. And that chyron, that title, Newsom lies about phone call, if they knew or should have known, given the timeline and the reporting, that was defamatory because it was untrue, then, we're up and running. And I think he survives a motion to dismiss in Delaware. I haven't seen the Chancery Court judge that's been assigned to it. I don't know if it's the same one. Could be the same one that was assigned for the Dominion voting systems case. But that's what he's signaling. The flag that Gavin Newsom is waving is Fox has admitted the defamation of public figures, so to speak, in the past, and has paid big as it relates to it. And he has no choice but to do that. Just as Donald Trump is, and we'll talk about it in another segment, is running around sending threatening letters from some local lawyer here. I live in Miami, and Coral Gables, frankly, I never heard of, that sued, Michael Cohen and then lost, and then sued ABC News, or threatened to sue ABC News over George Stephanopoulos. So this is the guy. It's like a tool bag for Donald Trump. Oh, who's the guy in my repertoire, in my group, that's going to send a nasty letter on media issues? Oh, Alejandro Brito. Oh, send the letter. Okay, so he sends the letter, and I'm not sure he wrote the letter, to the New York Times. And David McCaw from the New York Times, who I know, wrote back and said, and we'll get to it, our reporting was accurate. But Donald Trump has the taste for these defamation cases because, the Disney is considering settling with him. ABC did settle with him for millions and millions of dollars. Others
CBS,
who else?
CBS right now is considering
about to settle. Right. So he's used to getting tens of millions of dollars on these things. And Gavin Newsom has a point. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If they're going to get defamed, then they need to run into court and use the court system to our advantage.
Except the goose and the gander, and I'm not really honestly sure, and I'll have to Google what a gander is and what a goose is in this situation. But I'll say this: Newsom, and I'm not just saying this because I'm supportive of a lot of Newsom's policies, certainly more so than anything that Trump does. But California Governor Gavin Newsom is saying, I did not have the phone call. I'm ready to sit for depositions and talk about this made-up phone call that existed that Trump claims. That didn't happen. I had the original phone call that I said, and you are now lying about really serious conduct that's saying I'm essentially complicit in violating my duties as a governor. You're basically saying I engaged in a conspiracy and a crime, and that's not accurate. And that's causing me a lot of serious issues.
Welcome back. Ben and I invented a podcast about 4.5 years ago. We called it Legal AF for a reason. If you didn't know why, now you know. And much to our surprise, but our fervent thanks and support for our audience and respect for our audience, we are now in the top 50 of all podcast law and politics in the YouTube rankings. We are the top 50 on Apple Pod, and that's all because of you. What we'd like to do is continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. When we're looking at 4,000 lawsuits before Donald Trump's term is over, you want to be at the intersection of law and politics. You need to be at the intersection of law and politics. Join us on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Legal AF, the podcast. And then we need some downloads on audio to help us there. Some more 5-star review. You know how this works. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.